season. Now, the transfer window is of course closed, and we did a video where we ranked each club's transfer window, but in that I was sort of looking at the collective transfer window, thinking about who they sold, who they needed, etc. With this video, I'm just going to be specifically talking about the signing on a individual basis, and I'm going into a little bit more depth on how I feel about signings. So yeah, now we did this last year, and what we sort of did is we sort of tracked this. So at multiple points in the season, we revisited this tier list to see how the ratings and rankings changed. So that's what I'm planning on doing again this year. And yeah, let's get into it. Now the rankings we have are signing off the summer, so I'll put a few contenders there and pick one for the end. Good signing, average, poor, and flop of the season. Similar thing, only one will go in there by the end of the video. But yeah, disclaimer as well, I have completely lied to you here. I've not added every single signing in the Premier League, as I would be here for about 4 hours. So I picked a bunch, and I picked, there is one from at least every club, don't worry, but I've sort of picked the ones which I have something to say about, because there's a lot where I don't even know much about the players, so I've sort of just left those. But let's get into it. So we start here with Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka to Sunderland. Good signing for sure. I mean, it was maybe one of the most surprising transfers of the summer. Xhaka had been at Leverkusen for the last couple of seasons, had been a key player for them, winning the league under Xabi Alonso. So for him to make that move to Sunderland, who had just come up, was a little bit random. But from a Sunderland perspective, it's a fantastic move. He's come in, he's instantly been made captain. Very experienced player. And we saw at Leverkusen, very, very good if you can sort of play to his strengths. Now the reason I'm not going to quite put him signing of the summer is because, you know, he is a little bit older, I would say. You know, he's in his 30s. I am assuming he's probably on quite high wages. And if Sunderland were to go down, which, you know, I think they did some good business, but I still would predict them to go down. You know, that's going to be someone on very high wages, fairly old. They're not going to really be able to sell on. But that being said, I think Xhaka is going to help them massively in trying to stay up in the division, and is a fantastic signing for them. And if they stay up, hey, maybe he could be one of the signings of this season. Alright, next up we have a pretty big one going straight into it here. Walid Madadi to Newcastle. Around like £85 million. This is tough. Join from Stuttgart. I'm gonna say, you know what? I feel like I might have to cop out here and add another tier, because I think Walid Madadi is a good player. He's really promising young player. Yeah, Bayern Munich were very keen on signing him. Still fairly young. He's still fairly raw and developing. He had a decent season last year for Stuttgart. He's got some nice attributes. He's good on the ball. His finishing is decent. But Newcastle have massively overpaid it. But I still think he'll do okay. Like, I don't think he's a poor signing. But then I equally feel like putting him at average is a little bit like, I don't know, because he cost 85 mil. You know what, I'll put him an average. I was going to add a meh tier, but you know what, forget it. Average signing, I think massively overpaid, but it was a necessary signing. they needed to get a striker in Newcastle, and I think, even if he doesn't do too great this season, I think this is one for the future. He definitely has the potential to become maybe the next Isak, if he can be sort of fine-tuned his talents. But yeah, they've massively overpaid, and I'm not sure how much he'll contribute right now, but I think for the future this will be alright, so I'm going to say average. Joao Palhinha to Spurs. I'll say it's a good signing, only on a loan. It's not too bad. Spurs desperately needed a DM, and now I do have my reservations about Palhinha. He's sort of just a destroyer. He's not particularly great on the ball, and I think, as the season goes on, we'll sort of see the problem that arises with Spurs with that, because against those lower opposition, then we've already seen it right against Bournemouth. Spurs had all the ball but couldn't create, and someone like Joao Palhinha in that situation isn't really going to help you much. But in those big games like against Man City we saw, he's fantastic. Either way, it's a loan. He'll play a pretty decent amount. They needed a DM. It's fine. Good signing. Liam Delaby is going to be our first contender for signing of the summer. Yeah, look, I think when we look back on this, in hindsight now, it's such a steal that Chelsea managed to get Delap for £30 million, because we will look at the prices some of the strikers have gone for in this market. I mean, we'll get on to some, but I mean, literally look at Waldemar, right? This guy cost about £80 million, and he scored like a couple more goals than, actually I think he scored about the same amount of goals as Delap did last season, and they're about the same age. So Chelsea to get him in early for around £30 million, I think is brilliant business. Is he going to necessarily start every single game? Probably not, but he's going to play a lot, and I think he's going to contribute a decent amount now, and also in the future I think could be a really good striker. So then for that price point, he's going to turn out to be a real bargain. Douglas Luiz to Nottingham Forest is fine, average. It's only a loan. Was pretty bad at Juventus, but I mean, I don't know if he's going to start for Forest, but as a little bit of a rotational option, again, like Palhinha, it's a loan, it's whatever, fine. Samuel Chukwueze, good signing for Fulham. I like it because, again, it's a loan option to buy, it's fairly low risk, and Chukwueze definitely has a lot of potential in terms of, he's got great abilities. We've seen him do well in the past for Villarreal. Hasn't quite worked out for Milan, but he has shown in moments his qualities. I think on a loan option to buy, that's not bad for Fulham. I think he really, a lot of Fulham attackers improve. I think he really could do well at Fulham, so I like that move a lot. Diano Barry to Everton is another good signing. I really do like this deal in sort of the long term for Everton. I think Barry could become a fantastic striker for them. I'm surprised some other clubs didn't really go in for him. Again, he only didn't cost too much, around £30 million. Very young striker, very promising. I'm not going to say signing of the summer just because I don't actually know how much he'll play this season. I feel like Pedro is first choice, but still, I think it's a good signing. Noni Madueke, I'm gonna say is a poor signing, to be honest. Now, it's not because I necessarily hate Madueke as a player. It's more just Arsenal paid £50 million for him, which is a massive overpay, and he's gonna be a backup. Like, at least with someone like Waldemar, yeah, they overpaid, but he's probably going to be the starter, and even if he's not the starter this season, he'll, the plan is for him to eventually become Newcastle's main guy up top. With Madueke, they've spent £50 million on someone who is realistically just going to be a backup for most of the time. He's never going to start ahead of Saka unless he's injured or needs to be rotated. Eze now signed. Eze will probably take that spot. So, look, I think they needed a backup, and I don't mind Madueke as a backup, but to spend £50 million on a backup winger, yeah, I'm not too sure about that. And Madueke is okay. He was alright at Chelsea, but he's not exactly like a world beater. And would I trust him if Saka was out for 2 months to fill in for Saka and keep Arsenal in that title race? No, I would not. So I think it's a poor signing. Next up, we have Amine Adli, who joined Bournemouth, and I think it's another good signing here. I really do like this move. Amine Adli was quite good actually at Bayer Leverkusen. He never really truly got a consistent run in the first team. He was always sort of a rotational option in the attack. But whenever I saw him play, I feel like every time he played, he did really well in the games he got. So yeah, I think he's a really talented attacker, and I think Bournemouth, again, Iraola improves almost every attack he gets his hands on, really, whether it be Semenyo, whether it be Cliver, even players like Tavernier, Brooks, Evan Nilsson, all of these guys, Solanke. I think Amine Adli is potentially going to be the next one, because he's certainly got the ability to do so. So I think it's a good move. Harvey Elliott to Villa is okay. It's okay. I'll put in an average. It's fine. I think Elliott definitely needed to get out of Liverpool. And I think Elliott definitely has a lot of ability, which is there to be unlocked. It's definitely there to be unlocked. My only reservation really is about, is for sort of a sample size there with Elliott. Like I say, he has abilities, but he's never really been a regular starter for a consistent season in the Premier League. Or actually, he did have like one, but and it's sort of like I don't know where his best position is. I don't know if he's a starter for Villa straight away. If I'm being honest, I don't know. But loan, I think obligation to buy around like 37 mil. It's fine. Next up, we have Ben Doak to Bournemouth. You know what? Okay, I'll put in an average as well. I was a little bit torn here between average and poor signing. I think they've massively overpaid for him because spent like 25 million on someone who's never played in the Premier League before. That's a lot of money. And someone who has done decent in the Championship, but again, he hasn't really had a 38 game season in the Championship where he's absolutely tore it to shreds. But he's a very talented player. He's still young, and as I said with Adli, Iraola improves almost every attack he gets his hands on, so I think Doak could do well. Next up, Lesley Ugochukwu to Burnley. I think this... I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm actually gonna say signing of the summer. Contender here. That might be really random, but I do think Ugochukwu is class. When I saw him play for Chelsea, he was actually really good. Like, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Chelsea fan, but so when he first joined, he was actually really good for us. You could tell he's still young and still raw, but he was actually quite good for us. We loaned him to Southampton. Unfortunately, Southampton were just awful, and it just wasn't a great loan for him. But even then, he still showed glimpses, and I think a permanent move now away to Burnley is a fantastic move for him and fantastic for Burnley. I think they're getting their hands on a really talented midfielder. He's still quite young. I generally do believe that, even if it doesn't work out now, and if Burnley get relegated, I think he'll be amazing in the Championship. And I think this is a player who they can sell on for a decent profit in the future, because I think Ugochukwu is very talented, and I think he's going to help Burnley a lot this season try to stay up. Alright, Alexander Isak, the British outlandish record transfer fee, and I think I have to put it in good signing. Like, I don't think I can. I sort of almost have this unwritten rule here. A player who costs that much money, I don't think I can put him in signing of the summer, because signing of the summer is for players who are going to either gonna put up an incredible numbers, or are gonna be value for money bargains. And for that money, for Isaac to be a bargain, he would have to put up, like I said, generational numbers. But that being said, I still think it's a really good signing. Of course, you're signing the second best striker in the Premier League, one of the best out there in the world. Of course, that is a good signing. It's a big old fee, but he's definitely worth it. So yeah, like I said, I'm not sure I can justify, unless Isaac scores, Haaland numbers in his first season, then maybe he'll be a signing of the summer. But yeah, for that fee, I can't put him in that contention, but he is a good signing. Next up, that is Aït-Nouri, right? It's a bit small, yeah. Okay. Ryan Aït-Nouri, good signing. Yeah, good signing. Said he needed a left back. Did pretty well at Wolves. A little bit concerned about his defensive abilities. But going forward, I think it's going to be fantastic for them. Yeah. Garnacho. Yeah. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm actually gonna say average because of the fee. Chelsea signing Garnacho, it's a bit of a punt, it's a bit of a gamble, and we signed it for 40 million. It's one of those where if Garnacho flops, we could probably get around our money back anyway. But there is definitely some upside there because he is young. We did see glimpses at United. He is talented. So there definitely is potential there for him to get a bit of a return on his investment there. But it's very much a gamble, very much a punt. We'll see what happens. I'm not overly excited to see him, but it is what it is. Like I said, the fee is low enough for me to say it's not a poor signing, because we could probably get most of our money back if he flops. Next up, we have Taubi. I think that's his name. Taubi, from Club Brugge to Sunderland. Good signing. Really, really highly rated youngster, and a bit of a coup actually for Sunderland to sign him. I remember watching him against Atalanta last season in the Champions League, and he absolutely cooked them. So yeah, very, very nice signing, and I think if they go down, they'll probably be able to sell him on anyway. Bavode Diakate, I'm going to say is okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know tons about him, but pretty highly rated coming out of France. Lille have a pretty good track record of producing talents. And yeah, he's been a regular starter for them for a while now. It's quite a big fee, which is why I'm not going to quite say good signing just yet, but who knows, maybe he could be like the next Dean Housen. Pierre Ngapié, I'm going to say good signing. I was contemplating signing of the summer, but my only thing is I don't know how much he's actually going to play. But Ngapié is a fantastic signing, pretty decent fee, around £40 million, and he's going to be such a good backup at centre back and cover at left back. I think he's going to be a really useful player to have at Arsenal. The only reason, as I said, I'm not going to put him there is I don't actually know how much he's going to start. I don't know if he is going to be a starter or he's just going to be a backup player, but a really talented player and a pretty good fee. Adrien Truffet next, and he is a signing of a summer contender. He has been one of the best left backs in France for some time now, and yeah, Bournemouth got him in for a pretty decent fee, and I generally do believe he could be, that Milos Kerkez replacements. He's already started really, really well, and yeah, I think that's a good signing. good signing. I mean, kind of like Joao Palhinha, pretty low risk. It's only a loan. There is no buy option there, which is a little bit weird, but I mean, a loan for a pretty talented player, it's not the end of the world. Adds a bit of cover in that striker department. It's fine. Joao Pedro, I think, is another good signing. I really do like this move from Chelsea. Not too big a fee. One of the most exciting teenagers out there on the market. Was linked to Arsenal heavily a couple years ago. Can play left back, centre back. Great cover, great depth, and very young. Dango Ouattara. I think this is sort of similar vibes to Madueke. I'm going to say poor signing here because not that I don't rate Ouattara. I think Ouattara is a nice player, but to spend around 40 million, break your club record to sign a player who wasn't even a regular starter for Bournemouth is a little bit crazy to me. I think Ouattara will do decent at Brentford, but as I said, he was patchy, he was inconsistent, he was a squad player for Bournemouth, and you've spent around 40 million on him. That's not great. Next up, we have Diego Coppla, who I think is going to be a good signing. Highly rated out of Italy, had a fantastic season last year in Serie A. Got him in for a pretty cheap fee. I don't think many people are talking about this one, but I do think he will slowly get into the Brighton first team, eventually take over from Lewis Dunk and be fantastic. Next up, Calvert-Lewin. I'm gonna say average, only because it's on a free. Yeah, look, it's a little bit of a punt. It's almost like Garnacho, this one, where, it's only a free. There's not massive downside if this goes wrong from a Leeds perspective. And there definitely is the potential for Calvert-Lewin to do well. We have seen him do well in the Prem before, albeit a very long time ago now. And, the last few years he's been quite bad. He has been ravaged with injuries as well. So, yeah. But look, it's only a free, so it's okay. Next up, we have Jamie Gittens, and honestly speaking, I'm putting my bias aside. This is a contender for flop of the season here because we've spent around 60 odd million pounds on him, which is just a massive overpay in my opinion for a promising winger for sure. He's definitely promising. He showed glimpses at Dortmund of doing well, but he's really far from a finished article. He was a regular starter for the first half of the season under Dortmund, and then the second half of the season he wasn't even a regular starter. So, and we paid 60 million for that. We sold Madueke for 50, and we bought in someone who is probably less proven than Madueke, if I'm being honest here. Yeah, look, Giddens could be great, and he might do really well, but it's just a lot of money for a bit of a gamble. Like, for that money, we probably, a little bit more on top of that, and we probably could sign like Leao, for example, so I don't like it at all. Geertruida to Sunderland is definitely a good signing. A real coup, actually. I mean, what happened to Geertruida a couple years ago? He was meant to be sort of the next big thing. Coming out of Feyenoord, moved to Leipzig, but clearly things just didn't work out. But obviously he's still a talented player, and let's see what he does at Sunderland. Facundo Buonanotte, I mean, I'm just sort of putting him with this Calvert-Lewin Garnacho tiers, like whatever, it's a loan, a bit of a random move. Again, it's pretty low risk. Chelsea aren't really losing much here. If this fails, if it works, that's great, but yeah, it is what it is. Evan Quaison to Villa, I think, is definitely a good signing. Had a great season at Nice. He's sort of a bit of a late bloomer in a way, like early on his career didn't do too much, but has now really hit form. Can play striker, can play on the left. I think we'll add a nice little dimension to that Villa attack. say average. I think it's sort of like, I compare it to Waldemar, where I rate the player, I rate the signing. It's just a massive overpay. Like West Ham needed him, and I think he showed some really good glimpses at Southampton, but they paid like 40 million for someone who shows some glimpses in the Premier League at Southampton, which is a massive overpay. But I really do like the player, and as I said, I think West Ham needed someone like him, so it's fine. Xavi Simons, I'm again going to put my biases aside here and say that is a signing of a summer contender for sure. I really wanted him at Chelsea. He went to Spurs, and I think, they got rejected by a ton of number 10s, but they eventually got a really good one actually here. I was surprised no other clubs really came in for him because he's so good. He was fantastic at Leipzig the last couple years, and he could really be that X factor for Spurs. Next up, that's Verts, right? Yeah, okay. Verts, I'd sort of compare it to Isak really, where, for that fee, I'm not going to call you a signing of the summer player unless he does something crazy, but he is a good signing, let's face it. They have signed one of the best attacking mids, one of the best young players in Europe, and is a massive upgrade on what they already had in that number 10 position. Even if he hasn't, by the way, started off amazing, I think will come good. Donnarumma, again, look, I think it's a good signing. You're signing one of the best keepers in the world for a pretty low fee as well. It's naturally going to be a good signing. I do have reservations in terms of about the fit and was it entirely necessary, but nevertheless, it's still a good signing to sign one of the best keepers in the world for like 40 mil. That's a good move. Dewsbury-Hall to Everton is another good signing. I like that move from Everton. Dewsbury-Hall was actually quite good for us as a rotational option for Chelsea. It was always a weird signing when we made him. I always felt like, he was never going to be good enough to start for us, and he never was. But he was good to be a rotational option, and I think for a club like Everton, he is good enough to start and be a good player. Next up, who is that? That's a bit small. Matheus Hermansson. It's fine. I'm trying to take a side, like, from what I've seen in these first few games, he's been horrific. But if I look at the overall picture, it's okay. Like, he did pretty decent for Leicester in the Premier League last season. Fee's okay. They needed another goalkeeper. It's okay, even if he hasn't started the best. Jordi Bici, I think, is a really good signing for Bournemouth. Again, they needed a keeper to replace Kepa, and Jordi Bici was fantastic in France for Strasbourg. Even when he was at Chelsea, he was pretty solid for us actually, and to be honest, I wanted to keep him this year as the backup keeper, but yeah, I think Bournemouth are getting a good keeper in their hands there. John Henderson, I think, is another good signing. Had a bit of an experience ahead to that Brentford team, which is really, really key for them, particularly with all the players they've lost. I think that's really good. He started off pretty decent, and yes, he's on the older side, but I still think he can contribute at Premier League level for at least one more year. This is Omari Hutchinson. Fine. It was a little bit of an overpay, but again, kind of like Matheus Fernandez, showed glimpses of qualities, showed that he can be a Premier League level player in moments, and maybe playing for a better team he could do well. Bryan Mbeumo is fine. It's fine. I think United needed him. Had a great season at Brentford, but I think they massively did overpay for him. But I think he'll do okay. I don't think Mbeumo is going to replicate what the numbers he put up at Brentford at United, but I think he'll do okay. I'm not going to say good signing because I don't think he's going to quite justify his price tag, but I think he'll do fine. Like, I don't think he'll flop. I think he'll get a decent amount of goals and assists, but I think they probably did overpay. Armando Broja, I actually am going to say is a poor signing. I think Burnley massively overpaid it. They spent about 20-25 million on Broja, which is a pretty crazy fee in my opinion for someone who has really been injured and hasn't really done much in the last 2-3 seasons. To be honest, he hasn't really done anything since his first breakthrough at Chelsea. I think he is a talented striker for sure, but to pay that much money for him is quite crazy. And yeah, look, I hope he does well, but I just think it was a big risk there. Jack Grealish, good signing. Again, I'm trying to take the bias from what I've seen so far. Like, from what I've seen, he looks like he could be a signing of the summer here, but if I take that away on a loan, it's a decent gamble, it's a decent punt, it's a low risk one. If he doesn't work out, send it back to City, but if he does work out like he has currently done, you could be getting a serious player on your hands here. So Jadon Sancho, again, you're getting grouped in with this lot here. The average, it's a punt, it's fairly low risk, it's whatever if he flops, and there could be a decent upside to it, but he hasn't done much to prove or say that there's going to be a good uplift, so it's fine. Trafford, good signing, decent fee, very good keeper at Burnley last year. A little bit confused when they signed both him and Donnarumma, but yeah, Trafford is fine. I think they only got him for like 30 million, and yeah, if he's going to be the backup keeper, that's perfectly fine. Jeremie Frimpong, I'm gonna say signing of a summer contender here, just because the fee is quite low for a player of his qualities. I think he's going to be fantastic. He was great at Leverkusen. I have my reservations about him as a right back compared to a wing back. I think there could be some defensive issues there, but I mean, he only costs like 40 million for such a good right back going forward. Yeah, that's great. John Arias to Wolves, I think, is a good move. Very promising player. Looked very good for Fluminense in Brazil and at the Club World Cup, but he's not like really young, so let's see how he adapts to life in Europe. I've put Joao Pedro here twice, so he can twice go into good signing. Again, I'm trying to take away the bias and sort of what I've seen of the players so far. If I take that away, then I think it's a good signing. If we're taking that into account, it's definitely a signing of a summer contender. But if I'm taking that away, Joao Pedro, very good at Brighton, very talented player. I think there's a lot more to come from him, and I think he could be one of those where if he plays in a better team, he does well, like we're seeing. But that being said, he didn't he hasn't scored like 20 goals in the Prem before or anything like that, so we spent a decent amount of money, so I can't really put him in there. Mohamed Kudus, good signing. I think it's a slight overpay, but I think he's really, really good. Again, I think he's one of those where if he plays in a better team with better players around him, he could do really well. He has started off okay at Spurs as well, and we're sort of already seeing that, but I think he's one of the better options on the right wing available. Florentino Luis, I think, is another really good signing actually. Burnley have done very well. I mean, that is a really crazy signing, I must say, because he was linked to some big clubs a couple of years ago. He's been at Benfica for a while, so good move from them. Maxime de Kuiper, is another average. He's perfectly fine, like an experienced head, not too big fee, a bit of Prem experience in that midfield. Kerkez, good signing, yeah. Solid left back, did pretty well at Bournemouth. I think he'll be fine at Liverpool. Zubimendi, another good signing. I think he'll be an upgrade on Thomas Partey. I think he'll do pretty decent. Don't think he's going to come in and like revolutionise this team, so I'm not going to put him there, but I think he'll do fine. Dan Ndoye is average, it's whatever, like 40 odd million, it's perfectly fine. Anthony Elanga, I actually think is a good signing. I think he suits that Newcastle style of play really well. Was fantastic at Forest. They needed a right winger, they got him. And yeah, like I said, I think he suits that system really well. So I think it's a good move. Noah Okafor, I think, is a poor signing. Just because Leeds spent quite a bit of money on him. They spent like 18 million for someone who hasn't really done much since moving to AC Milan. He went to Napoli, didn't really do much. He's only really good. He hasn't really done anything in the top 5 leagues. He hasn't done much since moving from, I believe, Salzburg. So a bit odd move in my opinion to pay that much for him. Big risk. Tyler Dibbling, I think, is good signing actually. I was gonna say fine just because I think they overpaid slightly, but they are signing one of the best youngsters in England. Really, I do think Dibbling is very good, still very raw, and still has a lot of developing to do, which is why I was tempted to put him in average. But I think in the long term this will pay out. Kyle Walker, yeah, you're getting grouped in with these guys again. It's fine, it's whatever, it's fairly low risk, it's a decent little punt, might be able to help keep Burnley up. This is James McAdee to Nottingham Forest, who I actually do think is a good signing. I think McAdee is a really class player. Shame he didn't really get too many minutes at Man City last season, but when he did play in the back end of the season, he was quite good. And he didn't actually cost too much for Forest, so I think he'll do well. Ryan Shirky, I must admit, is probably a signing of a summer contender here. Super talented player, not a crazy fee as well. Was incredible for Lyon, very talented as I said. And I think if he's given the chances, given the minutes, could really shine for City. And same thing for Tijani Reinders, who I've been quite odd on. Really rated him at AC Milan. Fantastic midfielder, can really do it all. I think he's going to do amazing at City. Sorry, I'm rattling through these. It's just there's so many players here now. That is Kelleher. I think, good signing. Perfectly good signing. Pretty decent fee. Good replacement for Mark Fleck, and I'm glad he's finally getting a chance to be a number 1 at a Prem club. We'll see how he does. Eze, I think, is another good signing. Honestly, one of my favourite players to watch. A bit sad he went to Arsenal, but yeah, amazing player. I think the fee is quite big. I'm not quite sure I can say signing of the summer, but really good player, and he definitely does have that X factor where if he does bang, he could maybe be that difference. We'll see. But I'm interested in terms of how he fits in. I'm not entirely sure how he fits into that Arsenal system, which is why it's a good signing, not signing of the summer. Malik Chow is whatever. Decent little depth option at the back. Victor Gyökeres, another good signing. Yeah, look, Arsenal needed a striker, they got one. Who scored a bunch of goals last season. He definitely could be the signing of the summer. If he scores like 30 goals to win Arsenal the league, then sure he is. But at this stage, I don't know how well he's going to do in the Prem. And the early signs of it. There's going to be a bit of an adjustment there for him to fit into his system. So I'm going to have to say good signing. Jacob Ramsey, kind of like Malik Chow, is whatever. Depth option is fine. Matheus Cunha, I do think is a good signing for United. I do think they did overpay like they did on Mbeumo, but overall I'm a little bit more keen on this one than the Mbeumo one because I think he suits their system a little bit better. And I do rate Cunha very highly, so I think I do very well. Jeremie Pino, another good signing for Crystal Palace to come in and replace Eze. I'm not sure he's going to set the world alight straight away, but he did very well at Villarreal, particularly when he was younger. A couple injuries scuppered him, but he's still very talented. Yohan Wissa is a good signing. Big fee and a little bit of an overpay, but they are signing a very good striker who, again, like Elanga, I think really does fit their system very well. I think, Elanga, Wissa, Gordon, that could be an absolutely fantastic front three, I must say, so good signing. And finally, Benjamin Sesko, I'm gonna say is average. I think it's sort of similar to these guys where it's a massive overpay, but they needed a striker, they needed him, and I do like the player, kind of like Walid Madadi. He's got a lot of potential, he could be really good, he needs some fine tuning. They massively overpaid right now, but it could pay off in the future, we'll see. Right then, that was pretty simple. My flop of the season is Jamie Gittins to Chelsea. And now it's time to decide my signing of the summer. So, I need to drop some down. I'm going to drop down Lesley Ugochukwu just because Burnley will probably still go down, so I don't think it's going to keep them up. I am then going to drop down Liam Delap just because I don't know he's going to play every single game, and when everyone's fit, I'm not sure he's a regular starter. I will then be dropping down Ryan Cherki for similar reasons. I'm not entirely sure he's going to start every game or be a regular starter for Manchester City in his first season. I will then be dropping down Adrien Truffet just because I've seen him play and very highly rated out of France, but compared to these guys I don't necessarily know a ton about him, so yeah. So between Reinders, Frimpong and Xavi Simons, all three of them Dutch by the way, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to drop Frimpong just because of my concerns about him defensively, and I think maybe could get caught out a few times this season at Liverpool. So it's between Xavi Simons and Tijani Reinders for the signing of the summer for me, and I'm gonna give it to Tijani Reinders. I've kind of spoke about this signing quite a bit, so I'm not going to rattle on about it, but I just do think he's going to be fantastic in that City midfield. He's exactly what they needed, and I think he's going to be, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So those are my rankings of every single player. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you guys do enjoy it, please do leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in another